And with less than a month until Iowa and New Hampshire, many Americans aren't feeling too festive about their bottom lines. A new Fox poll showing 78% of voters think the economy is in bad shape, with a lot of the blame falling on the White House. Will this be a key factor when voters decide? Well, let's get the read from our holiday political panel. Democrat strategist Laura Fink, along with GOP strategist Lauren Tomlinson. Lauren, let me start with you. Everyone's talking about the economy.
Well, I think that voters don't just care about the economy. They care about a better life. They want a better economy. They want a better life. They care about health care prices. They care about abortion access. They care about protecting Social Security and Medicare for their grandparents. And they care about holding corporations accountable for price gouging and for continuing to charge high prices even as inflation comes down. So that's the vision that they're looking for. And it's up to the Democrats and the Republicans to stand up and say who's going to meet those challenges and concerns.
Lauren, I understand that the spin doesn't even stop on Christmas, but however, everything that I've read...
You're going to be mean to me when I'm wearing a Santa hat, Charles?
I know. I thought, listen, when are you going to have a New Year's resolution to, like, stick to the facts? I'm just joking. Okay, I'm just joking. I'll let Lauren stick to them. But really, everything I'm reading is the exact opposite. They're not talking about any of this stuff. They're not pinning the blame. They're not playing that whole, anti-corporation thing. People are sincerely upset, worried, and afraid. And Wall Street seems to think it's going to get worse. A lot of people now looking at the slowing economy, even slowing further in 2024.
I think people are really feeling that, too. One, they're seeing the inflation still impacting their kitchen table budgets, right? And that's where we see people most anxious on a personal level, that prices for things that they need are still high. And so that's why they feel that the economy is going poorly, regardless of whatever the economic indicators are about the labor market being strong or the market doing better. They feel it in their budgets, and so that's what's driving a lot of this polling. But second, I've had a lot of conversations over the past couple of weeks about how nervous employees are even feeling about the market, about the economy, and what they're seeing for 2024, fearful of layoffs, fearful of market disruptions in 2024. So even people who would normally have strong corporate jobs and they feel that they are doing well are still feeling nervous going into this economy in 2024 because of everything that's going on as far as, those indicators and what read that they're getting from their CEOs. So I think you're dead right that, while we can say that the Democrats are doing all of these different things and the messaging might be there on Biden economics, people are not feeling it. And at the end of the day, if they're not feeling it, they're not going to vote for it.
Laura, I was reading an article in The Atlantic, which is, obviously left-leaning, and they call it the English muffin problem. And they do say it's a messaging problem. There's a disconnect because the data, the aggregate data is pretty good. I think one of the problems with the aggregate data, though, is they include all households, which means lower income, middle income, and wealthy. And it feels like all of the gains continue to shift to the very wealthy, which is sort of ironic because I know President Biden is always going, rallying against the rich, the ultra rich, but they have really benefited more than anyone else under his presidency.
Well, I think that, voters are dissatisfied, and they were certainly dissatisfied when Trump gave tax cuts to the wealthy almost exclusively and huge tax cuts for corporations. So they're certainly against that. But when you dig deeper into this data, and nothing that's been said here, is completely inaccurate. But when you dig deeper into the data, they care about the economic health of their family, not just the country. They care about not just their kitchen table, but their whole house.
They care about prescription drug costs.
They care about jobs and good-paying jobs. And they care about the big picture. They care about issues like abortion as an economic issue. So you have to look at a larger picture, and you will see when you dig down, there's hope if Democrats can get their message out that they certainly will win on the issues that voters care about most.
Well, Lauren, Tomlinson, let me just say, I think one of the problems, since this has maybe shifted to an issue more of communication than anything else, is the Democrats keep telling people how well they're off, how well off they are. Last week, you had a op-ed in the Wall Street Journal where Janet Yellen's telling the middle class, you're doing great. If voters are saying I'm not doing great, and the administration from President Biden on down, including Laura, keeps saying, no, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You're doing fantastic.
No, that's not what I said there, Charles.
Well, let Lauren get in here for a minute. I mean, I just think that, to me, it's insulting. If I tell you, listen, something is wrong, listen to me. That's what we elected you for.
Listen, the election is a long way away, so a lot of this is going to be like, overdue, and there'll be other issues that come up. But right now, voters are saying, "What have you done for me lately? Why aren't you listening to me?" And I think you're seeing in the polling, especially with key Democrat voter blocks, Black Americans, young voters. There's been a significant decline in Biden's support. There's a lot of apathy there because of what you just described, Charles. What have you done for me lately? I'm not feeling it. You're saying it, but I'm not feeling it. And I think that also kind of plays to what we were talking about with wealthy voters. Wealthy Americans are going to feel differently about this economy than the lower income, from people that just graduated college, who are just starting out, who don't have the stock market to give them returns in that way. And I think that's where you're going to see Democrats have to fight the hardest, is to reshore and re-energize some of those key voting blocks and help. And they're going to have to get on the road. To be honest, it is a communications issue. The campaign is going to involve really going back to those base and telling them what they've done. And just to continue to put a finer point on it, the student loan debt, Biden has had to go send emails directly to the people that he wiped student loan debt for, because they didn't even know that he had done it. And that is a very big problem, communications problem, for the Democrats going into 2024.
It's also a problem for people who didn't graduate college and have to pay off those debts. Ladies, Merry Christmas. I really appreciate it. Listen, we're going to be doing a whole lot of this in 2024, so can't wait. Talk to you again soon.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.